Hi guys! So as you can tell from the title of this video, my leopard gecko's tail fell off. And I am beyond sad and confused as to what happened. Anyone that knows me in my personal life knows that my leopard gecko's tail was like prized possession. I always made sure that her tail would stay intact. I didn't let kids handle her. I always made sure that her tail wasn't touched or pulled or handled at all. So it's been about 3 days since that happened, and I am still completely confused as to what happened. I've thought about this for days now, and I have zero idea how this happened. So maybe you guys can help me figure out what happened to her tail. As you know, leopard gecko's tails aren't supposed to just fall off like crested gecko tails do, and that's possibly what happened. I have zero idea. So every night at about 8:30, I go through and feed all the nocturnal animals in the house. And usually when I do that, Percy, she is very sociable. So when I go in there to get her fresh water and her worms or crickets or whatever she's eating for the day, she almost always comes out and gets into my hand and wants to be taken out, so I take her out. So on that night, she did just that, and I could tell that she was about to shed. She had that really hazy look over her entire body. So I knew that she was about to shed, so I put a couple worms in her thing because she usually doesn't eat when she's about to shed, and I made sure to fill up her water bowl. I made sure that her moist side was good so that she could shed properly and all of that. She was climbing and digging and being her normal happy self. She wanted to be picked up. I took her out. And I put her back in and everything was fine. So then the next morning, usually in the morning, I wake up and I make and eat breakfast, and then I go around and do all of my animal checking rounds, just making sure everybody still has water, just looking at everybody and hanging out a little. So I checked the crested geckos and the snakes. The snakes needed more water. I dealt with that. And then I peeked in at Percy, and normally in the mornings, I can always find her in her hot hide. So I cleaned out her water bowl. She is really loving this whole bioactive setup, and I despise it. That's going to be a future video of me redoing it so that we have a good compromise, because I have to clean out her tank every single morning because she gets mud in her water bowl and her food bowl and her calcium dish, and I have to clean it out fully every single morning. So I have a good compromise that I'm going to work on soon. That's another video. Anyways, I find her in her hot hide. I peek in there and I can see almost black, stiff something in there. And at first I don't know what it is. I think maybe it's like a mealworm that's turned into a beetle or something, but it's not moving. So I look in there a little further, and at this moment I realized that I was looking at the tip of her tail, and I panicked, because leopard gecko's tails aren't supposed to just fall off like crested gecko's tails do. And I thought that she was dead. So I went into full-blown panic mode, heart racing, on the verge of tears, because I didn't know what happened. I got the flashlight, I shined it in there, and I could see her face moving around and looking at me. So I pulled out the tail, and she lost just about the last third of her tail. So it wasn't even her whole tail that fell off. And so at that point I was super confused because I was asleep. No one touched her. She's in my bedroom and she's housed alone. And the night before I took her out and she was happy and being her normal self, like she wasn't sick. She was about to shed. She was rubbing her body on stuff and going over to her moist hide and digging and climbing and doing all of her normal Percy things that she does. And then I wake up and her tail is missing. So I pulled her tail out, and immediately I just kind of shoved that to the side, and I just wanted to make sure that she was okay. And she was very skittish. You could tell that whatever happened scared her, or I don't know, but she was very skittish, and she just kind of wanted to be left alone, so I didn't want to stress her out any more than she already was. But I could see where her tail had severed at about, like I said, she lost about a third of it, and you could tell that it was bleeding, but the bleeding had stopped. And I was just really confused, but I left her alone because, like I said, she was very skittish. She's never skittish. She was when she was a little baby, but as she's gotten older, she likes to be held, and she likes to be taken out, and if you don't take her out, she scales the sides of the tank. Like, she'll try to climb it with her claws, and she loves to be out and she loves to be handled, but she was very skittish. She just kind of kept backing into the corner of her tank. So I left her alone, and I started looking at the tank, and on one of my pieces of cholla wood, there is what I'm assuming is blood. And so I was looking at her tail, and if you look at it, you can see that there is the part where it came off, and there's kind of another little gash there. So the only thing that I can assume is that maybe she cut her tail on something and then went into her house and it came the rest of the way off. But I'm really confused because there's nothing in her tank that's sharp. The cholla wood that had the blood on it, there's kind of, if you look at it, there's like these little end areas where maybe she cut it, but I've taken my finger and run my finger along the edges of it and they're not sharp at all. So just very confused. Really sad, because one of the cutest things about Percy is that when she was hunting, the tip of her tail would like flick when she saw her prey that she was going to get, and it was super cute. And that's not going to happen anymore, because I don't know if you guys know, but once a leopard gecko loses their tail, they become like just a round bulbous structure instead of the smooth skinny tapering that normally happens, and they don't really have full controls at the end of their tail anymore. So that won't happen. She's fine. She was out the very next day climbing and being her normal self. I think it traumatized me more than it traumatized her, because like I said, she's fine. I moved her back to a tile tank just because as that end of that tail is healing, I don't want any kind of substrate getting into it. But she's doing good. She's climbing and going from her hot and cold side and eating and drinking and just being her normal self. So I don't know. I guess there is no conclusion to this video because I have zero idea. So I have an entire list of videos that I would have rather made today that weren't this one, but I guess sometimes you can't control stuff like that. And I thought it would be good to make this video for you guys to let you know what happened, because like I said, I have an upcoming video where I'm going to redo Percy's tank so that it is essentially half tile and half soil for her to dig in. But I didn't want to make that video and you guys wonder what happened to her tail. So I was going to let you guys know. I'm sorry this video doesn't have a more exciting conclusion. If you guys have any ideas of what could have happened to her tail, please leave those in the comments below, because I am very confused. I tried Googling to see if other people's leopard geckos' tails have just fallen off, and the only thing that I could really find is that they can drop their tails if they get an injury that they feel like they need to let their tail go. So I'm assuming at some point somehow she injured it. I just don't know how. So yeah, that's about it for this video. Please don't forget to subscribe below. I put out new videos every Sunday, and that's it. Hope you have a fantastic day. Bye.